G'day YouTubers, I will preview this week's round of the AFL games. Before I start, it will be muchly appreciated if you can subscribe, comment and like. Every subscriber will be very much appreciated. Alright, let's get the show started. Let's go, yeah.
The review of my round 18 votes are: I tipped the Cats to beat Collingwood, yeah, got that right. I tipped Freo to beat Hawthorn, not good enough, the Hawks won. The Swans beat the Kangaroos, got that. An upset, I tipped the Blues to beat the Doggies, incorrect. Another upset, the D's beat Essendon and I tipped Essendon, disappointed. I got the Crows right against the Saints, woohoo! And I tipped the Suns to beat the Power, yeah. I selected the Giants to beat the Tigers, woohoo! And I selected the Lions to beat the Eagles, woohoo! Therefore, I got 6 out of 9 correct. My total for season 2024 is 97. Let's see how I go for next week. My 3-2-1 for the Brownlow Votes after round 18 are: in first spot is P. Cripps Counton with 27 votes. In second spot is N. Dagos Collingwood with 25 votes. And in third spot, with a whole heap of players on 23 votes, are E. Gordon, Sydney, Z. Butters, Port Adelaide, N. Anderson, Gold Coast, Z. Merritt, and L. Neil, Brisbane Lions. These are my 3-2-1 Brownlow Votes after round 18. The first game on Friday night is between Essendon and Adelaide Crows. The players in the mix for Essendon are Setterfield, Sassas and Hobbs. For the Crows, their players in the mix are Schoenberg, Burton and Jones. The players injured for the Bombers are Parrish, El Hawali and Baldwin. The Crows will be missing Worrell, Crouch, Parnell, Sloan, Miller and Reckon to suspension. If we compare the ruck midfield setup of both sides, you got Draper of Essendon against O'Brien. I expect the hitouts to be even, but Draper to dominate around the ground. Then you got the midfielders of Durham against Dawson. Dawson is very elite and one of the best kickers in the league. I expect Dawson to lead against Durham. And they got the speedy Dersma against Laird. Laird will find the ball on the inside, but Dersma will cut Laird on the outside with his speed and his kicking. And then you got the prolific ball game of Merritt against Saligo. I expect Merritt to dominate against Saligo. And then you got young Caldwell against Berry. Say that's even between those two players. I give the advantage in Essendon's midfield, and therefore they'll have more inside 50, and this will give plenty of opportunities to Meter Peter and Langford to score plenty of goals. And therefore, I'm going to tip the Bombers to beat the Crows. The second game of the week is between GWS Giants and Gold Coast. The players in the mix for the Giants are Haynes, Brown and O'Halloran. For the Suns, their players in the mix are Sexton, Atkins and Fioroni. Last week, the Giants beat the Tigers and the Suns beat the Power at home. Gold Coast Suns have not won a game away. The players injured for the Giants are Fahy, Bruce, Kelly and Taylor. The players injured for the Suns are Ellis and Weller. If we compare the two ruck midfield setups of both sides, in ruck for the Giants you got Briggs against Moyle. I say that Witts is still injured. It's pretty even, but I'll give the chocolates to Briggs, who's played or had more experience than Moyle. Then in midfield, you got Tom Green, who was best on ground last week at Richmond, against Rao, both hard inside players, but I'll give the advantage to Green as he's a taller, big body mid in comparison to Rao. Then you got Kukaniglio against Anderson. Kukaniglio is a good runner, but Anderson is very elite on his outside kicking and can cut 10 parts of his kicking. Then you got the hard-nosed Ward of the Giants against Miller if he returns. Both players are pretty similar, so that's in between the two. Then you got young, outstanding gun Callaghan against Flanders. I expect Callaghan to dominate against Flanders, and I'll give the advantage to the Giants' ruck midfield setup, and therefore they can provide some forward inside 50 to Jesse Hogan and Cadman. Based on this and Gold Coast's poor away record where they have not won a away game, I'm going to tip the Giants to win this game. The next game is between St Kilda and West Coast. The players in the mix for the Saints are Ross, Stocker and Cordy. The players in the mix for the Eagles are Darling, Sheed and Cully. The players injured for the Saints are Brad Crouch, King and Van S. The Eagles will be missing Acheli, Azo, Hewitt and Long. If you compare the ruck midfield setup on both sides, in ruck you got Marshall against Bailey Williams. I expect Marshall to dominate the hit-outs and the ground ball gets around the field against Williams. Give the chocolates to Marshall. Then you got Ross against young Gimby. Gimby's a good young up-and-coming player, but Ross has more experience and I expect Ross to do a lot better, or Ross to do well against Gimby. Then you got Speedy Hill against Kelly. Kelly is a great player with pace, but his form's been down this year. So I'll say it's even between Hill and Kelly. Then you got Jack Steele, the captain, against Jay Williams. Steele with all that experience and hardball get top of midfielder. I give him the chocolates over Jay Williams. Based on the ruck midfield setup, I expect Saints to have more inside 50s and provide enough ball movement and give Owens opportunity to score goals. Both teams are struggling this year, both in the bottom four. But because the game is played at Marvel Sam in Melbourne, Victoria, I'm going to tip the Saints to win this game. The next game of the week is between Hawthorn and Collingwood. Hawthorn beat Fremantle in Tasmania last week, and Collingwood lost to Geelong on Friday night. The players in the mix for the Hawks are Harsway and Jay Sarong. For the Magpies, their players in the mix are Allen, McStay, Cray and Bartel. The players injured for the Hawks are Blunt, Butler, Winger and Lewis. For the Magpies, they will be missing McCready, Elliott, Marchek, Mitchell and Cox. If you compare the ruck midfield setup of both sides, for Hawthorn you got Meek against Cameron, both pretty similar type of ruckman. Say that's even between the two players. Then you got another Newcombe against Nick Dacos. Nick Dacos, top 10 player in the league, or top 5, very elite. Say we give the chocolates to Dacos. Then you got Weddle against Lipinski. Two players are pretty hard-nosed mids, so they're pretty similar type players. Say that's even. Then you got young Walpole against Cribb. Both players are pretty similar. Say that's even between the two. Then you got young Mackenzie, who's going to be a good player, against Pendlebury. Pendlebury's got the best football IQ. Say we give the advantage to Pendlebury. Collingwood just has a slight advantage in the ruck midfield setup, but Hawthorn's the form team right now, and they beat Fremantle last week. They lost to Geelong at Canadian Park a couple of weeks ago, but they've only lost 1 or 2 games in the last couple of months. Based on their form, even though the game's played at MCG, even though it's both teams' home game, I'm going to tip the Hawks to win this game. The next game between Geelong and Western Bulldogs is in Geelong. Geelong hardly ever loses this game. Should I continue talking about this game? I will. Last week, Geelong beat Collingwood and the Bulldogs beat Cowden in Cripper's 200 game. The players in the mix for the Cats are Parfitt, Closeley and Stanley. The players in the mix for the Doggies are Daniel, Keith and Garcia. The players injured for the Cats are Wilkshire, Kane Guthrie, Hawkins and Braun. The players injured for the Doggies are Johannesson, Gardner and Smith. If you compare the ruck midfield setup of both sides, for Geelong you got Blickhaz against English. English, one of the best ruckmans in the league. I expect English to dominate against Blickhaz, but Blickhaz will do very well around the ground as he acts as a number midfielder and gets or gathers a lot of possessions. Then you got young Holmes, the speedy Holmes against Bontempelli. Bontempelli, top 10 player in the league, or top 5. I expect Bont to dominate against Holmes. Then you got Henry against Treloar. I'm assuming Treloar is back this week. He was a late exclusion last week. Henry is a good young player, but Treloar, experienced player, very good on the outside, and he's doing well in my Brownlow votes. I've got him top 10 this year in my votes. I give the chocolates to Treloar. Then you got Mitch Duncan, the veteran, against Libba, who's a hard-nosed inside mid. Say that's even between the two players. Then you got Jai Clark against McRae. Clark's a good young player, but McRae is a veteran, experienced player. I expect McRae to dominate against Clark. The Bulldogs do have an advantage over the Cats in the midfield, but Geelong, even with all the disadvantage, they still win their games. Last week they beat Collingwood and the previous week they beat Essendon. And because the game's played in Geelong, where they hardly ever lose, except for losing to GWS this year, I'm going to tip Geelong to beat the Doggies. The next game is between Port Adelaide and Richmond. Last week, the Power lost to the Suns and the Tigers lost to the Giants. The players in the mix for the Power are Ragalia, Williams and Rioli. For the Tigers, their players in the mix are Cumberland, Blight and McAuliffe. The players injured for the Power are Burton, Soldo and Power Pepper. The Tigers will be missing Lynch, Pickett, Ross, Maurice Rioli, Kipkus, Lurfu and Dusty. If you compare the ruck midfield setup on both sides, you got Jordan Sweet against Nankervis. Nankervis approached ruckman for the Tigers. I'll slightly give the edge to Nankervis as Sweet has played less than AFL games. In midfield, you got Zach Butter against Taranto. Taranto is a good player, but Butters is in his peak right now and is doing very well for the power with his X-Factor speed. Then you got Rosie against Pressier. Pressier's had a number of injuries this year, and Rosie is starting to get back to his fitness after being injured this year. I expect Rosie to dominate against Pressier. Then you got Ollie Wines against Baker. Baker is a good player, but Ollie Wines is a hard-nosed inside mid who will find plenty of the clearances and test possession. Then you got young Drew against Ralph Smith. Drew is also a hard inside mid, and I give him the chocolates over Ralph Smith. Looking at the ruck midfield setup on both sides, I give the advantage to the power, and if they can provide another or lots of inside 50s, and also I forgot to mention, Georgiades will be returning back from suspension, and if the midfielders provide enough balls to Georgiades, Marshall, and Rioli, if he does play, the power will score too many goals, and therefore I'm going to tip the power beat the Tigers. The next game is the game of the week between Brisbane and Sydney Swans. The players in the mix for the Lions are Lyons, Pryor and Robinson. The players in the mix for the Swans are Francis, Hanning and Heaney from suspension. The players injured for the Lions are Ainsworth, Gardner, McCarthy, Coleman and Dode. The Swans will be missing Shellerick and Cunningham. If you compare the ruck midfield setup on both sides, for the Lions you got McInerney against Grundy, both good ruckmans, but I expect Grundy to get the chocolates over McInerney. Grundy acts as an extra midfielder when the ball hits the ground. Then you got the midfield McCluggage against Jordan. Jordan's a hard inside mid. McCluggage can also find the ball inside, but is more outside. Say McCluggage, I give the advantage over Jordan. Then you got Neil against Rowbottom. Both pretty similar type of players, but Neil has more experience and is a two-time Brownlow medalist. I give the chocolates to Neil. Then you got Dunkley against Chad Warner. Dunkley finds a lot of inside ball. Chad Warner can also get the ball inside, but is very good on the outside. Say that's even between the two players. Then you got Jared Berry against Gordon. Berry is a good outside player, but Gordon is a different level player. One of the best kickers in the league. He had 40 plus possessions last week. He cut off from on the park. I expect Gordon to dominate for this game and against Berry. Looking at the ruck midfield setup, I slightly give the advantage to Sydney, but the Lions have a powerful forward line of Danaher, Cameron, Hitwood. Given that Brisbane is a form team and the game is played in Brisbane, I'm going to say Brisbane will win this game by less than 10 points. The second last game of the week is between Rio and Melbourne. Last week, Fremantle was disappointing and lost to Hawthorn in Tasmania. And Melbourne beat the Bombers. What a win. The players in the mix for Freo are Tabner, Walker and Emmett. The players in the mix for the D's are Brown, McAdam, Fullerton and Billings. The players injured for the Freo Dockers are Pearce, McDonald and Corbett. The players injured for the D's are Spargo and Petrarca. If you compare the ruck midfield setup on both sides, you got Jackson against Gorn, if he does come back from injury this week. Gorn is an all-Australian great ruckman and also contributes around the round. Jackson is an aspiring young gun ruckman. I just slightly give the chocolates over to Gorn, but Jackson is a good ruckman. Then in midfield you got Sarong against Oliver. Oliver is an inside-outside mid, extracts the ball. I'll slightly give him the advantage over Sarong. I rate Sarong, he's a good midfielder as well. Then you got Winey against Fife. Winey's an inside ball. Fife can get the ball inside, but is also good overhead and plays on the outside and kick goals. Say that's even between Winey and Fife. Then you got Young against Sparrow. Both good young players. Sparrow is an inside mid. Young is more of an outside and one of the best left footers in the league. Based on the ruck midfield setup, I slightly give the advantage to Fremantle, given that they're playing at home and they've got a well-balanced mid. If Melbourne had Petrarca, then the midfield's a different story. And therefore, Fremantle will provide enough inside 50 for the young forwards of like your Amos, even experienced Walter, and the other players to kick goals. Give that, yeah, the game's playing perfect. I'm going to say Freo to beat the Demons. The last game of the week is between Hawthorn and North Melbourne. Hawthorn was very disappointed last week and lost to the Bulldogs at home in Cripps' 200th game, and the Kangaroos got smashed by Sydney. The players in the mix for the Carlton are Young, Carroll and Hewitt. For the Kangaroos, their players in the mix are Bergman, Phillips and Dersma. The players injured for the Blues are Martin, Cottrell, Doherty and Silvani. The players injured for the Kangaroos are Goda and Coleman Jones. If you compare the ruck midfield setup for both sides, in ruck you got De Koning against Xeri. Xeri is a good young ruckman. I expect him to win the hitouts, but De Koning to contribute a lot more around the ground as is an athletic ruckman. Then in midfield you got Cripps against David Giniaki. David Giniaki is a good young player, but Cripps is a top 10 player in the league. I expect him to dominate against LDU. Then you got Sarah against Scott. Scott's a good young player, but Sarah is a veteran, or not veteran, but he's played about 8 years of AFL now, and he's very good on the outside. I expect Sarah to dominate against Scott. Then you got George Hewitt against Sheasel. Sheasel is an up-and-coming gun player, and Hewitt, with his experience from Sydney, I just slightly give Sheasel the advantage over Hewitt, but Hewitt is a good midfielder. And then the last matchup, we got Walsh against Machercha. Machercha, an early round draft pick for the Kangaroos, but Walsh, former top 1 draft pick, gun player, can go on the outside, kicks goals, set up plays. I expect Walsh to dominate against Machercha. Looking at the ruck midfield setup on both sides, I give the advantage to Carlton, and therefore they're going to provide a lot of inside 50s to their McKay, Curnow and Williams. Therefore, I expect the Blues to tip the Kangaroos. My votes for this week are the Bombers to beat the Crows, the Giants to beat the Suns, the Saints to beat the Eagles, Hawks to beat Collingwood, Geelong to beat the Doggies, the Power to beat the Tigers, the Lions to beat the Swans, Freo to give Melbourne a hero, and Carlton to beat the Kangaroos. Thank you for watching my video. If you like my video, please subscribe, like and comment. Every subscriber will be very, very much appreciated. I hope you enjoyed my video. Have a good day, night or evening, depending on what time you watch the show. Cheers!